Yeah, baby. Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on Rock Metal Podcast, we have Ravenous E.H. They have a new album called Hubris, which was released on October 22nd via Feast Beast Records. Right now I'm being joined by Rav to share some more information about this stellar release, as well as what the boys have got cooking up, because, there's some pretty exciting stuff that I came across my desk I'm excited to hear about, such as Speed Metal Blonde. So, Rav, welcome to the show.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely great to have you on. Now, since I put that little teaser in there, Speed Metal Blonde, what is that? I hear this a lot from bands in Europe. It's almost the go-to thing. They've got a beer, it's usually a Pilsner, and they make so many runs of it, and there's that. Occasionally, there's a band that has like a rum or something. Not as popular, though, but typically in Europe, I'm seeing this. North America, I'm not seeing it as much, but I'm in Edmonton, you're in Calgary. I know for a fact that Calgary, especially over the economic downturn, people are going, there's no work, what do I do? I'm going to start a beer company. And tons of incredible beer companies have popped up, breweries in Calgary, and the restaurant that I work at, because I'm a chef by trade, and we only deal in craft beer. We don't have any of the mainstream beers. We only do craft beers. There's some incredible stuff that's coming out of Calgary right now. So I wanted to talk about New Level Brewing and the beer that you guys have partnered with them called Speed Metal Blonde. So take it away. Talk to us about this.
Well, this was basically something we collaborated with New Level on right before the pandemic. We're basically saying, hey, we're going to be working on a new album. We want to do a beer. And then obviously everything went to shit. So we came back around, once the album was ready, saying, okay, it's been a couple of years. We're ready to pull the plug. Or pull the plug, I guess, or pull the pin. There we go. So can we just get started on this beer? Yeah, pull the pin.
Pull the pin, aim, and fire.
That's exactly it. And that was exactly it. And we ended up with this blonde ale. It was really fucking awesome. It was delicious. Everyone at the shows was really enjoying it. And we ended up selling it all out. So we managed to blow through most of the batches just between like listening parties at breweries and bringing the beers with us to shows and stuff like that. So all in all, a pretty fun venture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now you went with a blonde ale. Talk to us about that.
It was just a matter of what ingredients were available and what would fit into their schedule. They're like, yeah, we can do a blonde ale. I'm like, okay, then that's what we're going to do.
Okay. I was going to say, if you're running only 1,000 cans and they're a large enough brewery, I imagine it's kind of like, okay, what do we already have, boys? We can just slap a new sticker on.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Sorry if I ruined it for anybody out there who didn't know that. Most of the products you buy on the store shelves come from one giant place, and it's just a different sticker. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what most things are.
Yeah, and you're sitting there looking at the exact same product in 2, maybe even 3 different things, and you're like, which one do I need? I don't know. Maybe neither of them. But that's cool. So I actually want to try some now. Blonde ale. I like blonde ales, especially my wife. She really likes blonde ale. Speaking of stuff strictly from Alberta, what is it, Blind Man? I think they make a blonde ale, or is it Sea Change? One of the two, they make a blonde ale that my wife absolutely loves. So that would be very cool to snag some of that. Now, I know you guys were doing a live DVD performance not too long ago, actually up here in Edmonton. I was on the list, but then something happened. But how did that show go? Did it go through?
It went through, and it went well enough. We ran into a bunch of technical snags that we're currently in the process of figuring out because of the recording process.
Kick drum samples.
Yeah, it's pretty much the way it goes, right? Like there's eventually a point where you got everything lined up, you're good to go, and you just hit the stage, and all of a sudden, your mic craps out or the guitarist stops working. And so we ran into enough of it where we weren't in a position where we could, film multiple days in a row. So we're just going to see what we can do to work with it. But the show itself was amazing, and we actually just got back from Edmonton this past weekend playing with Unleash the Archers, and that was psychotic. It was fucking incredible in every single regard.
Mm-hmm. I imagine it would be. I was very excited because I'm still almost not used to getting those emails, and there's not many of them, but ones where I can write back and say, can you get me backstage? And depending on where it's at and the locale, that sometimes, very rarely a yes at this point, mostly it's a no for COVID reasons and whatnot, even though I can prove I'm vaccinated and all that stuff. And then with this one, this was at the height of where we were like 2,000 cases a day and the military was on its way, so I was like, John, I'm pretty sure we're going to be caved in by that point, but get me on the list anyway. And then I can't remember what happened, but I couldn't make it. But it sounds like it's awesome. Live DVD, I know from audio stuff myself, again, I hate to like peel back the layers for people, but most of that is re-recorded guitars and drum samples anyway, because somebody kicks a mic, you can just hear screaming going on. It's a nightmare. But how is it going though? Like, is the energy there at least?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's something that we've never lacked. So that's luckily something we don't have to resample and re-record and put in digitally. We can at least keep the energy there. But on a basic technical level, it's like if a microphone cuts out, you're not going to produce something where a whole verse is missing from a song or something like that. So those are the kind of things we got to look into.
Gotcha. Beautiful. All right. Now, this album itself, Hubris, take us through this album. What is it about? What did you guys set out to create? Is there a concept? Take us through it.
So less of a concept, more of a uniting theme. You know, you figure with the difference between like concept albums, it's like it's got to be about this one story or this one string of events. But with a overarching theme, it was actually after we had created, because we created about 20 songs for the album over the course of about 2 weeks, and then narrowed it down to the 10 that were making it onto the album. And then once that was all done, then we were like, shit, what do we call this album? And that was the part that actually took the longest, till we realized that Hubris was kind of the uniting theme across all the tracks. So that's where we said, okay, well then that's the name of the album, and that's the, you know, little story that we can pitch, that it all ties into 10 different stories all about, you know, the hubris of man, or at least with arrogance leading to downfall kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to say I'm known for my humility and not so much for my hubris, but could be another story. Now, 20 songs whittled down to 10. What's going to happen with those 10? Are you guys going to do like a load reload thing and just, you know, save them for another album and a couple of EPs, or are they're not good enough?
Basically, it's not that they're not good enough, but the other ones were better, right? That's really all it kind of boils down to, is what were we trying to create as an overall product. So if we take those other 10, I mean, if we just regurgitate them on another disc, that's still not doing well enough, because we'd probably write 20 more songs that would probably be better off. So typically what happens with like songs that don't make it, they get disassembled into like a riff repository, and then maybe later on we can draw inspiration for them, or if we just never touch them again, because who knows where we'll be at mentally and on a musical level when the next album comes out.
Mm-hmm. Very true. I was going to ask you a question about something along the lines of the musical journey that maybe you guys plan to be within 5 years. Like, are you guys pretty chiseled into the concept of what is Ravenous EH, or is that something that is malleable and moldable to the point where next album could be something completely different?
I think it's an evolution is the easiest way to put it. We have a general idea of where we want to take things. We have plans usually mapped out, most shows booked up, 6 to 8 months in advance, things like that. But as far as the sound of the band, I mean, most things come out very organic. We typically try to set, let's call it a vision, and then try to work towards that vision in that process. In this process, it was symphonic, fast, very dark, but something that was still overall enjoyable. And we feel like we hit the mark for what we were going for. But by the next album, we can say, okay, maybe we want to do a satanic power metal album. Okay, well then that completely changes the vision. Therefore, the direction's got to quickly pivot. And that's why there's no is this the Ravenous sound? I'm like, well, the Ravenous sound just revolves around us as musicians, the music being fast and the riffs being good. So in that essence, yes, this is the Ravenous sound.
How do you know when the riff is good? I mean, obviously, you wrote 20 songs full of riffs. Actually, that's another question. So I see an acoustic guitar. Do you guys write, campfire songs, or do you guys write riffs and then piece it together? I don't want to call it a Frankenstein, but you know what I mean? Are the songs riff-based, or is it we're going to write a song on an acoustic guitar, we're going to write the vocal melody to it, and then we're going to turn it up into a symphonic, dark, maybe even faster than the original demo kind of thing? What ends up happening?
So typically what we do is we start off with the riff, the main riff of the song, the one that identifies what the track is, and then we build outwards from there. So whether that ends up being a chorus riff or an opening riff or whatever it may be, and then we typically build outwards and structure everything around that. And then once that's done, that's actually when we add in the vocals. And we do everything on our own, because we all have our own home studios. So that's typically where we'll go in, write and record everything, but then send the multi-tracks to the other bandmates saying, okay, what do you think of these ideas? If you have something to contribute, you can just, cut out that section and then put in, record what you think it should be. And so it works out really well when all 5 members can be tracking on the same multi-tracks in pitching their ideas and developing a song.
Yeah. How do you do that? Going back to the cooking metaphors, not having too many cooks in the kitchen, each person's adding salt. By the time you're done, you got to fix it. How do you guys do that? Is there like a cloud, like Pro Tools in the cloud, and you guys sign in and one at a time and add some ideas, or how does that work?
No, typically we'll just have it where each person gets like a print. So let's say I have a song idea, I have all the basic, bones structured out there. Then I'll just throw it up in a drive file, send it to the guys and say, okay, you all have the multi-tracks. Each of you has a chance, you got 1 week to show me your version. It's almost like giving them the ingredients and saying, each of you create a dish out of these ingredients, and whichever aspects we like the most, we'll keep. Yeah. And that's typically what ended up happening.
Very true. It could be ravioli.
It could be indeed.
One person comes in with a giant raviolo, which is singular, and then you have a whole bunch of ravioli, which is plural. Boom. What do you?
And you know what? I've had this nickname forever, and I didn't even know that.
Really? I thought you were Italian.
Yeah,
Are you Italian?
Raviolo is the singular. No, I'm not.
Oh. Okay. Well, I apologize. I apologize to Italians for that, and then I also apologize to you for calling you. I don't know. This got weird for a second. Yeah, raviolo is singular, and ravioli is plural. What do you enjoy most?
That's going to be the real takeaway from all this for me, by the way. This is like the today I learned.
Sweet! Yeah, take that to supper with you. Just be like, oh, let me just enjoy this raviolo. And they'll be like, you mean your ravioli? Well, all of these in the plate are ravioli. But I'm going to enjoy this one raviolo. What do you enjoy in your ravioli the most? Are you like a meat guy, cheese guy, vegetable guy, like a spinach and ricotta?
Actually, spinach and ricotta would be pretty great. Or seafood. I like seafood raviolis. Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. How did you get that nickname, if you don't mind me asking? You have a hat. You're ready to go.
Yeah, the hat's just if I get drunk and lost at a music festival, they can identify my body.
Yeah.
So my full name, Robert Antonius Voltaire, R-A-V, Rav. And the ravioli was just like people playing off of that and having fun with it. And I just really enjoyed it. It's a good stage name, good bar name, good whatever it may be, and just something easy, especially if people I really don't want to know my actual name. They're like, yeah, I'm Ravioli. Is that your name? Sure, why not? Nice to meet you. Have a good one.
Yeah. Well, now I know. Very cool. So going back to the hubris part of it, my son, who helped me prepare for these episodes, he actually did it, and I just showed up, and I'm ready to go, and I got faith and love in him that this is going to be everything I need it to be, and he has not let me down once today, so shout out to Gabe's the Babes. Now, he has here that the video link, Die 1000 Deaths, he put parenthetically, which means in parentheses, the coolest parts are 248 to 302 and 334 to 356, in my opinion. Do those times mean anything to you? Do you know what's going on in Die 1000 Deaths right around those times?
I know it's not the intro and not the outro. That's about the extent of where I know where we'd be. Timestamps are not something we typically identify in music.
Yeah, I know. I figured maybe you might be like, oh yeah, that's my sweet guitar solo, or go back to Hubris, right? That's my best guitar solo I've ever written, kind of thing.
Probably is whatever the best visual elements our video producer put in there.
Maybe. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. And in the meantime, you mentioned animation. So take us through this music video. Animation. What went into it, Raph?
So from the producer's standpoint, I basically sent him a bunch of footage of me playing several games involving the character that the song's about, which is Akuma from Street Fighter, and basically said, here's a whole whack load of footage from this video game. I would like you to assemble it together and chop it up with, anime footage and do it like those old, Napster / LimeWire anime music videos that, used to watch in the late 90s, early 2000s. Because that was exactly what we were trying to invoke out of it. And I think he completely knocked it out of the park, including the fact that, when you like open old EXE files on your parents' computer and turns out you accidentally downloaded something that crashes the entire computer, whatever it may be. So that progression comes out through the video too. And our buddy Nick Rowlett, he just completely nailed it as far as making a non-boring lyric video, something beyond just artwork with lyrics popping up.
Okay. I'm watching it. I know exactly why my son thinks that it's great. It's because the computer's crashing, and there's some weird, strange obsession on the internet with Windows error messages.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
Not Linux error messages, not Unix error messages, not Macintosh error messages. I've even tried to be like, hey, son, how about a Macintosh error message? And he's like, that happens? Like, okay, so if you go far back enough in the day, like 1994, there was a little time bomb that you would get, and you knew you really messed something up on your Mac if you had a little time bomb show up. Not as interesting, I guess, as Windows error messages. I don't know.
I think Windows error messages just look a lot more dramatic, you know? It like makes you feel like you're in the Matrix. The screen starts spazzing out and all these lines of code, you know? So maybe that's the obsession.
Maybe that is the obsession. Sweet. And then we've got the Windows Media Player. Oh, man, it's taking me back. You know, something that's happening here, Rav, speaking of things that are on the internet that I'm really quite happy about, is there seems to be a quiet little gentle resurgence of the way we viewed technology / the future in the late 90s.
How so?
There are some bands who are coming on and they want to have artwork that's reminiscent of like The Matrix from like 98, 99. Some other bands that have come in and really use a lot of song titles where I'm like, that kind of reminds me of like Orgy or Deftones from like the late 90s. And like, that's exactly what we were going for. Here you've got like Windows Media Player that I would have done like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know? So it's weird. It's like there's all of a sudden this quiet resurgence from like 1998 or something.
Maybe it's its own form of what everyone just keeps calling member berries. But, you know, getting that old nostalgia back, not through the music and maybe not through the artwork, but even just what you're listening to it on, right? Like if someone sees a Winamp, you know, a Winamp window, they're just like, oh, yeah, I used to listen to Win. And just like the software itself is starting to bring nostalgia, you know, regardless of what the content is inside of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's another crazy thing. Thoughts on that? So as advanced as we get with computer technology, if, for example, I'm able to right now chat with you in near real time, high definition, I'm streaming it, I'm recording it, I'm enjoying it. We couldn't have done this 20 years ago, but yet we look at a Winamp screen from 20 years ago and we go, oh.
Yeah, no, that's just how nostalgia works, right? Like a kid, whatever future AR or, you know, VR technology we have now, you know, someone could grow up in 30 years and it can be considered obsolete and they'll be seeing it as, oh man, like that brings you back to the days when VR was just starting to pick up and become mainstream. And it's just like, yeah, we all long for something that brings us back to a better time. And we obviously distort the past to try and remember only the good stuff. So
that's very true. Would that be a part of hubris?
I'd say so. Absolutely. I mean, there is a sort of hubris in believing that everything you've ever done was awesome. All the times you had were good times and, you know, things suck now, but back then everything was amazing. It's like, well, yeah, because your own hubris is distorting it in your own mind. You know, you're painting this picture perfect view of how things used to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, I do it all the time about when I was in my early 20s and bartending. It's like, yeah, it was great. There was also 1,001 things that sucked. You know, I hated almost getting mugged every day on my way home from work, you know, but you don't remember those parts. You remember, oh yeah, I got to tour with Cro-Mags and do all these crazy things. It's like, well, yeah, then those are the parts that you're going to remember and you're going to think about them fondly.
Yeah. A lot of those times you evaded getting mugged because of your sweet Taekwondo skills.
Muay Thai, but yeah, same thing.
Yeah, sure. I'm so sorry. I've offended Italians and I've offended Muay Thai and Taekwondo people all at the same time. Well, that's fantastic. So you do Muay Thai?
I used to. I don't fight anymore. It was a long time ago thing where I realized I preferred not getting punched in the face, and it was easier playing guitar without punching things before and after. So, quickly gave it up in the focus of music.
I can see why, Rav. The whole point is to not get punched in the face.
Yeah, that's the other part. That's the other reason I gave it up, is I wasn't very good at not getting punched in the face.
I was going to say, and absolutely no offense taken, but you can tell when somebody's an active fighter. Like their face has been hit so many times, you can just tell. I'm gonna say your face doesn't look like you've been hit recently. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, you're saying no offense, but you just called me pretty, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, you are an attractive young man. That is for sure. Okay, we chatted about Calgary's new Level Brewing, the Speed Metal Blonde. We've chatted about the live DVD. Any idea when that will be released or Is there a
We
plan?
were going to be aiming for spring 2022, so spring of next year. But we're going to have to really dig deep into these technical issues and see what is solvable and what isn't. Because the reality is, if we end up just giving the audience or our fans just a bunch of resampled, re-recorded material, I mean, we're basically giving them the album, but with a few cheers and chants in between, and that's not what we were striving for. So if it does turn into a worst case Ontario, we'll just chop it up into, just free bits we'll throw up live on our social media channels and just let people enjoy like some magical moments from it, but we'll do whatever we can to salvage it from this point.
Yeah. Because I've been part and parcel to some of that stuff too over the years at various levels of budget. And yeah, if your goal is to make it all authentic, good luck. So much of that stuff is just redone.
Maybe that's our hubris too, right? Like, we want to put out an authentic product that's different than what other people have already what they've already listened to and purchased, right?
Yeah.
We kind of regurgitate the same thing, less than a year after the album, saying that it's something new. I mean, that'd be foolish of us to not realize that, like, our fans are smart and they know a lot about our inner workings and what's going on with us. Like, we maintain very open lines of communication with our fan base. So
yeah.
I'd say we'd be the first to be like, hey, we tried and it didn't turn out the way we wanted to. So here's like a bunch of free clips out of it. We would rather that than saying, hey, we redoctored all this and now you get to enjoy it live. Doesn't really stand for anything.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Before guys, I'm excited here because some of the, especially over the pandemic, a lot of bands who couldn't tour wanted to capture on it, so they went back and found footage that probably didn't work very well and released it as a live and, insert place here. And I heard some of it, and it's terrible because, quite honestly, they just replaced the whole thing. And it's like, okay, great, you gave me a chop shop replacement job with some crowd noise in it.
Basically, yeah.
But no, I'm really excited to hear it. Truthfully, Rav, I will die 1,000 deaths until I hear it. And then we have Astral Elixir. Take us through this track. What does Astral Elixir mean?
So Astral Elixir is the drug song. We got the token drug psychedelic power metal track. And yeah, that's basically all it is it's the typical run through of Hubris in the sense of, thinking that, by simply just doing psychedelics, you can have some crazy perspective on the world, or even just thinking that anything that you do in the universe really matters in the grand scheme of things.
That's my brother, Rav. That's my brother right there. He's like, no, you don't understand because you've never done mushrooms. I'm like, I don't think I need to do mushrooms to understand.
And that's the part that I laugh at because I do mushrooms all the time, and even I'm still like, that's fucking stupid. But yeah, it's the track itself is a good amalgamation of, the proggier parts of what we do and the faster parts of what we do, cutting in between different swings and tempos. And, that track stood out as a single for us because it was a more accurate representation of, hey, what is this evolution that we have found on this album and how are we going to represent that before this album comes out? And that track did a really good job of it, of that almost erratic nature of what we're going for. Because again, you're mashing prog with power metal, with elements of extreme metal, and trying to mix it all into just this one cohesive product. Typically, it's a lot harder to do, but for us, we almost have like solid barriers where we can say, okay, you're allowed to have, like, if you want to go back to cooking, you're allowed to have X amount of like this ingredient and X amount of that. But if the whole song was blast beats and screams all the way through, that's not doing our style in the influence of something. That's just, we played a black metal song. Mm-hmm. We're not the band that jumps genres every single track. It's take the best elements of those things, but create it in a sense that is still speed and power metal.
It's like pad thai, baby. You got to have your sweet, you got to have your spicy, you got to have your salt, you got to have your sour, you got to have your elements together so that it is a complete and unique unit, not just spicy, for example.
Yeah, see, and that's apparently pad thai is the perfect analogy for what we're doing right now. So
yeah, I was trying to think of something that would work, and I just want pad thai. That's I guess where I was going with that. Where's a good place in Calgary to get pad thai? Do you know?
Oh no, I don't. I haven't been dining out very much for the last couple of years for obvious reasons.
Yeah, makes sense. So, me neither.
our guitarist Jake, the gentleman who wrote Astral Elixir, he's a big foodie, so I'm sure he can give you a whole list of things. I told him to just start a food blog at this point because it seems to be his true passion outside of geology and shredding the guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Along with his geology blog and his guitar blog, he'll have a food blog. Beautiful. Yeah. Because I can make pad thai, and the missus has been asking me to make pad thai, but it involves getting a bunch of what I consider one-use ingredients because I don't cook Thai very often. But I probably should just do it. It's not like a lot of those things go bad. Like fish sauce will last forever. I should probably just use it in more things, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, so team, we've got the new album Hubris, which is out October 22nd via Feast Beast Records. A couple of tracks that are available on YouTube: Die 1000 Deaths and Astral Elixir. The band's website, ravenouseternalhunger.com. What else is there we can say? Speed Metal Blonde, available from the band directly in some way, shape, or form, I believe, mostly in person, yeah?
Totally sold out, actually.
Okay. I know you mentioned that in the beginning, but I was hoping that as suave, debonair businessmen with much hubris, you guys would just order more cans of it in.
No, there's actually a very specific thing we do where we say, if you missed out on something, that's your last chance to get it. So,
it sounds like
when a merch design sells out. When a merch design sells out or anything like that, it's like, hey, if you missed out, you missed out. Just wait till the next cool thing comes out.
Very true. Very true. All right, Dad. I think we covered everything there. Well, son, I guess you should have just got in line when you had the chance. Anyway, cool beans and hot sauce, baby. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Was there anything that I missed, Rav?
No, I think the only little thing we'd want to add is just we're streaming on Twitch under my channel, the twitch.tv/RA Voltaire. Pop in anytime and say hey. And then otherwise, we got a couple new music videos in the works and maybe even a live acoustic set that we're trying to sort out right now. So we'll see if that gets off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having us.